The distance started as a hairline fracture, barely visible between the sheets, hardly noticeable across the breakfast table. You'd kiss my temple and murmur, "Work is insane, I'm sorry I'm not here," your voice soft as the sweater you wore 3 days in a row because you claimed it smelled like home. I'd smile into my coffee, tell you I understood, that deadlines were monsters we all had to feed. Tonight you stayed up typing, screen angled away, the faint click of keys like distant hail. When I wrapped my arms around you from behind, you'd tilt your head so my lips met the edge of your jaw, never your mouth. "I'm almost done," you'd whisper. "Go to bed." I did, and the mattress felt wider than continents. One afternoon you left for a quick meeting, and forgot your laptop. It sat on the desk like a sleeping animal, the tiny green dot of the email icon blinking. I never snooped, until the bank statement arrived and your name sat beside an unfamiliar address in another city. I told myself it was a typo, a glitch, a mistake that would dissolve under explanation. Still, the fracture widened. You stopped saying "I love you" at the end of calls. You started saying "I owe you," as if affection were debt. I found myself rehearsing conversations while folding laundry, arranging sentences the way I arranged socks. Paired, neat, ready to be pulled on when needed. The night you whispered apologies into my hair. "I'm sorry I'm distant, sorry I'm not myself, sorry the world is so loud." I held you and felt your heart racing like a trapped bird. You fell asleep with your back to me, knees drawn up, a comma curled around its own pause. I stared at the ceiling until dawn drew pale curtains across the room. In the morning you rushed out, phone to ear, promising breakfast, tomorrow, definitely. The laptop blinked again. I told myself I'd just close it, but the cursor was alive, pulsing inside a document titled, "Letter, Never Sent." My finger hovered, then landed. The document opened mid-sentence, as if even the draft were breathless. "I can't keep pretending the distance is work when it's me. I met someone who looks at me like I'm a map worth reading, not a detour. I wanted to tell you, but the words felt like gravel every time I tried. I thought if I stayed busy, the feeling would pass, but it's only grown teeth. I'm sorry I'm too cowardly to say this aloud. I'm sorry I made you think the silence was your fault. I'm sorry I whispered apologies for distance when the real reason was choice." The cursor blinked on, indifferent. I read it twice, 3 times, then closed the laptop exactly as I'd found it. The room smelled of toast and betrayal. When you came home that evening, eyes bright with rehearsed cheer, I was sitting at the table with 2 cups of tea. You paused in the doorway, coat half off, sensing a shift in gravity. I slid a printed copy of the letter across the wood. Your face cycled through the colors of a dying sunset. "I found your draft," I said quietly. You didn't ask how. You sank into the chair, elbows on the table, head in your hands, the posture of someone finally admitting the weather inside. "I couldn't send it," you whispered. "I know," I answered. "But you wrote it. That's the distance." We sat like that for a long time, the tea cooling between us, the apartment holding its breath. Eventually I stood, walked to the bedroom, pulled out the suitcase you'd bought me for conferences we never attended because you were always too busy. You followed, leaned against the doorframe, eyes glassy. "I didn't mean for it to happen," you said. "I know," I replied. "But it did. And meaning is the only thing we have left to mean." I packed methodically, jeans, books, the sweater you wore for 3 days, which now smelled only of you. When I closed the suitcase, the click sounded like the period at the end of a sentence we'd been writing for years. The door you reached for my hand. I let you hold it for a second, long enough to feel the tremor, short enough to remember stillness. Then I pulled away, stepped into the hallway, and walked toward the elevator without looking back. The draft stayed on the table, a monument in 12-point font. Somewhere inside it, the real reason for every mile you placed between us finally had a voice. And for the first time, I wasn't listening.